All right, everybody, welcome out tonight. This is Tim from Lessons on the Web, and tonight we are talking about scales and how I practice my scales. So this might be a little bit shorter of a live stream subject, which is okay because I'm a little bit tired tonight, but I think it'll be a good one to go over. Either way, I actually don't really need the headphones right now. Well, I kind of do actually, because I need to hear the piano. Okay, so here we go. So when you are learning your scales, you can go to any number of resources. The best resource, other than the one I was showing you there, pianoscales.org, is if you go to Amazon and you type in scales and arpeggios. Now, you can get these scales and arpeggios in different books. So you can get them in like a Hanon book or something. A lot of times if you have a piano lesson book, a lot of these scales will be in the back of that. Like if you have the level 2 of the Alfred Adult series, at the end of that book, you'll have almost every scale, major and minor. Only one octave though, but if you want, 2 octaves, even goes up to 4. I think 2 octaves at least. You want this book right here. You don't have to buy the book. You can actually go to pianoscales.com where you can actually find the fingering and like the notes that you're supposed to play are highlighted. We've talked about this website before, so I want to make sure you are aware of it. The only problem with this website I have, well, let me see. It says printable scales. Let's see this. Yeah, see, the problem I have with this website is that it doesn't show you like you would normally read a scale, which is, the notes and understanding where the sharps are and stuff. This kind of is a cheat sheet showing you like, highlighted which notes you're playing. Now, it's very useful for that. Like if you need to double check and you're not quite there with reading scale notes yet or notes on a page, then this website's probably for you. Another great thing about this website is that it tells you the fingering. And now, the fingering, sometimes there's discrepancies between the fingering on this website and something you would find in Hanon or something like that. But for the most part, these ones all work, and for the most part, except for one, I think, these are all the fingerings that I use. Now, I'm not going to go over all the fingerings and everything today. I'm going to let you learn that on your own. Or if you're more interested, you can stop by my website and check out my online academy. I think Playing the Piano Level 3 is the course that really centers around learning your scales and the fingering and all that stuff. You could certainly study this website in the meantime. So, I just wanted to show you the website. I'm going to go back here to the Scales and Arpeggios page just so I have something up there. So, I'm going to go through my practice routine. Now, when you first learn scales, you want to go from the one with 0 sharp, 0 flats, key of C, and you just want to start with 1 octave. And then you want to work your way up through all the key signatures of the sharps. So you want to do the key with 1 sharp, which is the key of G. Then the one with 2 sharps, key of D. So if you notice I'm going very fast through these, this is just because I've practiced these a ton, and I know them already. So you may want to take a week for each of these scales to really learn them 1 octave. And you want to go around until you learn the scale, like all the way up. You do two sharps, 3 sharps. Oops. Hope I could play that one. The one with 4 sharps. All the way until you get to the one with 7 sharps. And you just want to learn them, 1 octave, up and down. Probably hands separate first and then hands together. And then what you want to do is once you move beyond that, you want to start doing them 2 octaves. And one thing, it's a little hard to do in the chair I'm sitting in. I really should have a piano bench, but the chair's a little more comfortable for this length of time. But anyway, so whenever you're playing a scale up, you want your fingers pointed slightly in the direction you're going. And then if you're going down, you want your fingers pointed the other way. Oops. And then you want to go through all your scales 2 octaves. And then you want to learn them 4 octaves. Oops. through and learn them all like that. Now, obviously, you might start playing them. By the way, you shouldn't make the mistake I did. When you play 4 octaves, you want to start low on the piano. Why? Because that gives you enough room to go. If you start from like middle C, you're too high up. Sorry, it's hard to talk and do these at the same time. You start from too high up, you'll run out of room there. But that's something you would definitely work into. Now, once you learn all your scales and you know all that stuff, and you feel pretty confident about it, and confident as well, competent and confident, you want to go through your scales chromatically. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you play your key of C first. I'm just going to do 1 octave just to show you what I mean. And then instead of going like to the one with 1 sharp, you're just going to go up a half step, and you're going to start the major scale on that note. Oops. Then you go up another half step again. Go another half step again. Another half step again. Oops. Any ones you messed up, you want to play again. Oops. And there you go. I've went through all of them. I went from C to C sharp to D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, A, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then back to C. And then what I would do is I would note down any of the ones I had trouble with. There was just a couple of ones I messed up just a little bit, so I would mark those down, and those were the ones I would do first, like my next practice run. Of course, I would play them a few times each. Now, so say I messed up on A flat a lot, which I think I might have actually. You want to practice it again and again. So you got it, and then you just try playing it at your tempo again. There you go, that worked out pretty well. So already, in a short amount of time, I've cleaned up that scale. B flat was another one I had trouble with. Just like that. And then I would do that until they were all perfect, and then I would play them all 4 octaves. But I don't want to get too far ahead of us. So that's the direction you want to go with your scales. So if you're like, oh man, I don't understand, or I'm not there yet, start with 1 scale, learn 1 scale a week, 1 octave, and then accomplish that, and then move on to 2 octaves. So start small, do that, and do the rest. So in my experience when I took graduate school for IT, they said they always used to ask us, or at least a few times they asked us, how do you eat an elephant? And they would always refer to that in terms of big projects that you have. The answer is, to eat an elephant, you eat it 1 bite at a time. So if this is your elephant, learning all these scales and stuff, you do it 1 bite at a time. It's kind of a weird analogy, but it makes sense, at least to me. Blueberry is back. Great to have you back, Blueberry. I'm glad to see you again as well. Glad you could make it out. So that's where you want to go with your scales. Then you want to learn, your minor scales and things like that. So a lot of students ask me, why scales? A lot of students don't like them. A lot of them find them boring. Why do you learn a scale? Well, there's really a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is it improves your dexterity, your ability to play up and down on the keyboard. So once you understand all those finger crossings, you can play up and down the keyboard way more effectively. And then it also helps build coordination and hand strength, and all the things that we were talking about with the hand and exercises apply here to the scales, as well as syncing up your hands so you're playing the same note at the same time, or the same note an octave apart at the same time. One of the other ones is if I had to define a scale, it's all the notes that exist within a key right in a row. So if you're in improvising, you really really should know your scale. Now, you notice I didn't play the scale beginning to end. I played sections of it. But to be able to do that, you need to be able to play it up and down to be able to do that effectively. And basically, if you understand what notes are in a scale, or, if you know what notes are in a scale, you know what notes belong in that key. So you know that, like, that when I hit that note didn't belong in the key, and you can visually see that as well. So if I know my D major scale, I know how to improvise in the key of D. Now, obviously, there's more exploring than that. Like, you obviously will develop your own little thing that sounds good, but I don't want to get too far into improv. I just want to tell you, like, why learn your scales, and there's a lot of useful uses for that. Another use is that in music, a lot of times, you'll see the scale. Like, sometimes it'll be started like an C major scale. Maybe it won't start on C, but it'll basically be a C major scale with the same fingering. Sometimes it will literally be a C major scale beginning to end. So those are just some tips on where to start with scales, where to go, where to find maybe some resources about scales, and why you learn them. So obviously I'm going to save like more of this for another day. I don't want to anybody's heads to explode over this one, but these are the importance of why we learn our scales and how to do it, which is a very common thing. After you learn your scales, you probably want to work on, you can also play your scales, by the way. These are all parallel motion scales. So if you think about a parallel line, there are two lines that never intersect. They go the same direction. And so with a parallel scale, these are notes, they're hitting the same note, octave apart, and you're moving at the same amount. So that's just like a parallel line. You can also learn your scales in contrary motion. This is a lot harder to pull off. Actually surprised I'm doing that well so far. And then you want to go from there, and then you want to try them in thirds, where you start from the first note of the scale, and then with your right hand you start from the third note of the scale. And that's just another way to practice them. Once you get really good, this is like after you've mastered them, 4 octaves and things like that. Then, what kind of tools should you use? Like if you're trying to get these really synced up, both hands, and you're really trying to get these 100%, what kind of tool should you use? So if you know what kind of tool, let me know in the comments or in the chat here. And so what kind of tool would we use to make sure these scales are in sync? And this will also help us identify any problems in the scale we may have, like with fingering or something. Okay, Rich says, are fingerings the same when you switch to harmonic scales? Yeah, they change a little bit. A lot of times they will be very similar. And then some of them they're exactly the same. So it depends on the scale. So you need to, just look that up. Like the A minor, by the way, or A harmonic minor, has the exact same fingering. Now, are you comparing the harmonic to the major? Because, the harmonic minor to the major will have some differences. Now, if you're comparing the harmonic minor to the natural minor, I believe they're all the same. Oh, that one's different. Some of them are different. Like D flat's different, but a lot of them are the same. So it depends on the scale. So yes, sometimes, at least the way I do the scales, there's a little bit of a difference between a couple of the natural minors and the harmonic. Okay, going down here, John says, sorry about last Sunday. I was unable to make it since I was out with my family. That's totally fine, John. I totally understand that. Sometimes I spend time with my family too, and you know, I can certainly understand that. So check out. I posted like I posted the whole live stream, so that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to like break it up into clips that you can watch throughout the week, so you don't have to like comb through the entire live stream for one thing. So that's the reason I do that. I'm trying to make that system a little bit better. So I have a video coming out like every day, every other day, so that there's a lot of content coming out for the channel. So that's why you may notice we do the live stream and then you see like it kind of seems repetitive because we'll talk about a topic and then I'll post like the little clips about it. But the little clips are really to condense what we're talking about, so you don't have to watch, you know, an hour and 10 minutes or the stuff. But it's great that you're able to make it tonight. So it's great to have you, and anytime it's great. Anytime it's great to have you. Rich is right that the metronome is the tool we're going to use to make sure our scales are in good shape. Manny is late. How dare you, Manny? No, I'm just kidding. That's okay, Manny. I'm glad to have you out either way, whether you're on time or late. I certainly understand. I certainly understand everybody having a life and things outside of this live stream. Let's see. Okay, Rich says, no, I was comparing natural to harmonic. So yeah, the same thing applies where some of them are exactly the same, like A natural minor and A harmonic minor, but when it comes to like D flat, it's a little bit different. So you'll just have to check on those. Okay, so where do we go from here? We talked about, to reiterate for anybody just joining us, or in case you want to review, we talked about where you should start learning scales, learning them one octave, you know, through all the keys, all the sharp keys, all the flat keys too, by the way. I didn't mention that as much. And then really you want to learn them 2 octaves and then 4 octaves, and then you want to, I don't know, what else did we talk about other than that? Oh, and why you learn your scales. So scale will help you know what notes are contained in a key. That helps you with improvising. We're not doing an improvised lesson tonight, but I just kind of wanted to tell you that's a reason why we learn our scales. It's really useful to know, all the notes that belong in a key right in a row. So because it helps you not only improvise but play songs in that key, and really understand what notes belong in that key as well. All right, so we're gonna move on. Oh, Rich says, "Oh God, different fingering. I thought I was done." Yeah, you're never done. I mean, there's always something else to learn with piano, which is one of my favorite things about it. It has a lot of depth to it, so the more you know, the more there is to know. Usually, unless you're like a total master, but then there's probably a lot of things still left to know. I mean, other instruments for sure, and other things. And music, you never learn everything in music, and if you do, I want to see you, because I will be thoroughly impressed if you learn every instrument, master every instrument, know all the music theory, know all the music history and everything. I will be really impressed if you can pull that off. I don't think it's possible, and I don't think anybody exists that is absolute master at everything and knows everything. Now, there's probably a few people that know a lot. Like, there could very well be people who know how to play every instrument. But can they master everyone? I don't know. I don't think there's enough years in a lifetime, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to go back to scales for a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out that metronome, right? Now, we want to set it to like 4/4. That's a good one. Why 4/4? We don't want to set it to 3/4. Only because how many notes are in a scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's an even number. Now, you can set it to 2/4 too. That works too. There's an even number of notes in the scale. You need to have some sort of time signature with an even amount, or it won't work. It'll sound really weird. I mean, if you're playing them in triplets, it works. Oh, you have to do it 3 octaves. And then the rest. So anyway, you want to set it to like 4/4. Start it up. Let me turn this up. So here's the metronome, right? 2, 3, 4. First, what you want to do is you want to play the scale for 1 octave, 1 quarter note per each of these beats. well, you also want to do it, you know, left hand along with it. I forgot to do that. But after that, what you want to do is you want to play them as eighth notes. So now we're playing 2 notes for each of these. Now you want to think about how fast this can be. Bump, 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 ba da da da. I'm a terrible singer. Oh, wait for beat 1 always. So that worked out pretty well. Now, sometimes you're not going to land on beat 1. So if you don't and you land on beat 3 like I did, that's totally fine. You just need to keep up with the metronome, playing 2 of those per click. Okay. Then you want to go through and do that with every scale. You know, go through them chromatically like we talked about earlier. Like that. And then try 16th notes. Like once you go through all those in 8th notes, try them in 16th notes. Now you want to play them in 4 octaves when you do this. Almost. Let me try again. Now let me think. Now this is what you should do. Think about how fast your 16th needs to be. So here's the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's the 8th notes. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and here comes the 16th. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a bump 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 bump. Oops. Let me just wait for beat 1 again. Oh. Almost. I missed that last beat by a little bit. So probably what I would do, I haven't done this with 16th notes in a while. So you slow it down a little bit. And then again, you have to think about how fast your 16th note is going to be. Bump, 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 bump. 1E and 3E and 4E and like that. So you're going to go through and do them all in 16th notes and go from there until you have them all mastered. So that's basically how you'll do it with the metronome as well. Why does it say movie recording? What? Weird. Let me see something, guys. Sorry, everybody. It said, I don't know, my camera's doing something weird. I did something different to it earlier, so I don't know what's happening. Oops. So back to the 16ths. There, I did a lot better that time. So you may want to break it down, hand separate, do it slow. Like I said, I haven't practiced them as the 16th notes for a while, and it shows. So that's one other thing about the scales, is that even if you master them, if you don't play them every single day with the metronome for a while, some of them will get kind of iffy. Some of them may, and then in different like levels. So playing them as 16th notes might get a little sloppy. So you always want to go back and fix those. But I'm just kind of introducing to, you know, how do you master your scales, basically. Manny, Here's the thing, for every beat with a 30-second note, I have to play all 8 notes, right? That would be really hard to play. So for every click on the metronome, you'd have to get through 8 notes of that. We will do 30-second notes another day, probably during a more rhythm-centric lesson, but we will do 30-second notes. Just keep in mind that every time you add a flag to that, you go from 8th note to 8th note to 16th note to 32nd note, you're doubling the amount you have to do. So if I have to do 4 for a 16th note for every one of those clicks, I have to do 8 of a 30-second note. So nowhere in my music experience have I been expected to play scales in 30-second notes. Generally what you would do is you'd play them in 16th notes and then bump up the number on the metronome to get them faster. That's how you do. It's not really as practical to play 30-second notes, only because you're really putting way more notes in the place of one note. So it gets a lot harder to count. We'll talk about some ways to do that on another time. It's really hard. See, I can't even do it. It's too fast. I can do the 16th notes. That works out fine. I still know them decently enough, but I do need to go back and clean them up a little bit. Yeah, Rich, so there's pentatonic scales, 5-note scales. There's whole tone scales, or whole tone scales, where every note is a whole note. Like that. So everything is a whole step, rather, if I said whole note. I'm sorry. And then there's a chromatic scale, where you go in half step. So it's the opposite of a whole tone scale. Just like that. Is there a 64th note? Yes, there is. There's a 128th note. I've never seen anything beyond that, to be honest with you. So generally, as fast as you're going to go with scales is 16th notes, like I said. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E. And... oh, that's why you do them in 4 octaves. That's right. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 5E and 6E. Oh, wait, I went too far. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 2E and 3E. Why is it not... 2, 3. Oh, that's why. 1E and 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 1. So that's why you had to do 4 octaves. I was only doing 3. That's why it sounded really weird to me. So to have the correct amount of E-andas, breaking up the beats into quarters, you need to be able to, you have to play it in 4 octaves. That's the only way it works, or else it will shift the beat over and sound weird. Now, why is that? Well, it's because you have, because if you do 2 octaves, I mean, that works okay, but that will end in the middle of a beat because you would still have 2 left over. And if you did it 3 octaves, that wouldn't work because you have an odd number of total notes, right? Yeah. And that wouldn't fit into 16th notes, but 4 octaves certainly fits because you have 1/2, of the 1/2 of the scale takes up the first 16th, or one of the beats, 1E and 2E and but actually I'm starting to figure it out. I'm trying to wonder why we do 4 octaves of 16ths and why it doesn't work out any other way. And I got to figure it out because when you first play this note, that's on beat 1. And then you have E and 2 E and the problem is when you go up only 1 octave, that's that isn't actually beat 1. You have 1 E and 2 E, and then this is and. So like I said, the 2 octaves will end in the middle of a beat. So this is the middle of a second beat. E and 1 E and I think I made a mistake somewhere. I don't know. I'm really tired. I'll have to explain this again later. But anyway, when you do the 16th notes, you have to do 4 octaves of them to work. So you have the full number of little subdivisions that you need. If you do them 3 octaves or 2 octaves, it won't work out. Or 1 octave won't work out quite right. Okay, John says, is practicing the major scales a good warm-up before playing a piece of music? Yes. So if you're playing a piece of music in the key of G, in fact, when I sight read, if I'm reading a new piece of music, like in the key of G, I'll play that G major scale first, or G minor if it happens to be in that case, because that gives me an idea on what notes I can expect in that scale, and it really helps me put myself in the mindset to play that scale. So that's a really good question. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you're about to improvise in a key, play the scale. But anytime you're playing a new piece of music, or even if you're familiar with it already, play the scale first. That'll get you set in that scale, especially if you're playing something in a different key before. You want to play the scale first because that will help reset your mind. See, what I tend to do is if I'm playing something with 2 flats, like the key of B flat, right? If I'm playing the key of B flat, and then I try to play something in 2 sharps, I accidentally start playing the key of 2 flats, and that's just because my brain needs a minute to reset. So a good way to do that is to play the scale first, and it's a way to say, hey brain, we're in a new key here, don't get confused. You're welcome, John. Is there a trick to go fast on the chromatic run? Sorry about that. That's the heater kicking on. It's cold here in the northeast United States this time of year. It's like 50 degrees. It's which is pretty cold. But the chromatic scale, it is practice, but here's how the chromatic scale works. It alternates between 1 and 3. It depends on what note you start on, but say you're starting on C, it's going to go 1 3 1 3. For the black keys, anytime you have white keys, like right here, you're going to use the fingers 1 2. So it's 1 3 1 3 1 2 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 2 3 1 3. It's really hard for me to keep doing that and talk at the same time. But it's all about the fingering and it's all about practice. Just like that. Not quite as good at it with my left hand, but it manages okay. But so it's a combination of two, though, getting the right fingering and practicing. All right, everybody. So I'm running out of energy fast tonight. I've had a kind of a long day. It was a good day, but I was up early this morning, so I think I am going to call it quits a little bit. I feel like I'm getting a little bit rambly, but if the couple of things I want you to get out of this lesson today really are how you start practicing your scales, and that's practicing your scales is important. There's many different types of scales. You have your major, and really there's 2 main types of minor scales, natural minor and harmonic minor, but only one type of major scale. We talked about the 2 minors last time, so I won't really go over them again today. And then you have things like the pentatonic scale. That's like the blues scale. It's like a 5-note scale. And then you also have a whole note scale. Excuse me. That's all whole notes. Or whole steps. Why do I keep saying whole notes? It's kind of a spacey feel to it. And then you have a chromatic scale. And then there's a technique called the 12-tone composition technique, where you make up a scale of 12 notes, on your own. So you make up your own scale, basically. Really weird way of composing. I should show you sometime. Some of the songs sound actually pretty good, but it's really strange. Do you know any exercise to play right hand and left hand different? What do you mean by that, Manny? Elaborate on that a little bit for me. Get this back on. Oh, contrary motion, Rich. That was another thing we talked about, was how to play contrary motion. Yeah, John. Let me make a video on that, just talking about that. Like I said, it's all about the fingerings, but I should make a video going in that in more detail. Maybe we'll do another scales lesson once I'm feeling a little bit more peppy, where I really go into details. Actually, I'll polish up my scales, and then I'll show you, you know, how to really get them, how to fine-tune them once you get them learned. Because like I said, once you learn them, if you don't practice them all the time, I admit it's been a couple of weeks, some of them get a little bit rusty, so you have to keep trying again with the metronome and things like that. But yes, I can do that for you. Just not like beyond the explanation I have now. I'd really have to like write it out. But just know like two things. Chromatic scale is in half steps. All half steps. So all the notes are touching. You're not going to be, you know, having some of the notes sharp, some of the notes flat. They are all sharp and all flat. And the other key is that between white keys and black keys, so your first few notes, if you start in C, you have white, black, black. You're going to use the fingers 1, 3, 1, 3, always, if it's white, black, black. And then see how we have two white keys here? You want to go to fingers 1, 2, because if you end on a 3 there, you're not going to have any fingers to play the F sharp. So the key is the fingering by far, and the other key is just really like playing up to a certain point in the scale. Reminds me of a bumblebee. I think that's kind of like how that song goes, Flight of the Bumblebee. And that's how you do it. So I'll create like more of an in-depth explanation for you, but that's generally how you want to start learning them. And of course, you might have to look at the recording of this video and just go over it a few times, just with your right hand before you get it. Now the left hand is 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1. It's the same fingering, except when you get to the white keys with your right hand, you're playing 1, 2. And then your left hand, you're playing 2, 1. But other than that, the 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, which by the way is middle, thumb, middle, applies for the white, black pattern on there. Yeah, so Rich says once you get up to here, between the B and the C, because they're two white keys, you use 1 and 2. Absolutely. Because if you don't, you won't have any. I mean, you can use 4 there. I guess that works okay, but I get tripped up doing that. So yeah, 1 and 3 between white and black, and then any two white keys, whether it's E and F, excuse me, or B and C, you're going to use 1 and 2. And then if it's actually the left hand, it's 2 and 1. Just like that. So yeah, any other questions about scales? I think we'll do another scale live stream. Probably not right away, only because that would be kind of boring, I think. But I should make some more videos. And then of course I do have more explanation videos of the scales in depth on my website. LessonsOnTheWeb.com if you're interested in that kind of thing, where you can really get a more structured and in-depth look at a lot of these topics we talk about during the live stream. Since I give you kind of like, not overall, we go a little bit in depth, but the courses I made really help connect everything together. But that's really if you are interested. If not, continue hanging out on the channel, and you will learn plenty that way. Okay, any other questions? If not, I think I'm going to end it. I can't believe it's been 45 minutes. Once I get going on these things, like, the time flies by in a good way. But I am starting to reach my limit for the day. I've been trying to exercise a little bit more, and I think that's, like, the great thing about that is I'm getting more exercise, and then the bad thing about it is at the end of the day, I'm, like, just more tired. So I'll get used to it, though, and then I'll be, a little bit more chipper for the next one. But I think we had a good discussion, and I think everybody here learned something about playing your scales for sure. Great question, John. Have I ever tuned a grand piano? Not without somebody next to me who knew more about what they were doing. Tuning a piano is actually harder than it looks. Now, I'm sure if I was trained in it, it wouldn't be so hard. From what I understand, you don't just go through all the notes and tune them to a pitchfork, because what happens is as you tune some of the notes, some of the other notes in the strings move. Like, it's just how the frame of the piano works and everything. So as you tune some notes, some of the other ones get out of tune. So it's really hard to go just from the bottom of the piano to tune all the way to the top. You need to do it in, like, the different intervals. I forget whether it's octaves or fifths or something first, and then you do, like, different ones. At least that's what, like, a professional told me, that, there's, especially if you're trying to tune a piano for a very specific kind of performance, then that's really tricky. Like, if you're trying to get it to blend well with violins or stuff, it's slightly different tuning for everything. So the short story is I have, like, turned the tuning thing on a grand piano before, the tuning wrench on those little knobs, but I certainly, like, don't know. I wouldn't tune my own piano, that's for sure. I would get a professional to do it. It might be a little bit more costly, but certainly worth it. But yeah, that's how it goes with the grand piano, or any piano, even an upright. I mean, you could tune your own upright, and you might manage okay, but you would do a lot better to get a professional tuner who isn't me. I'm definitely not a professional tuner. I'm more of a teacher type. So, there's teachers, there's technicians, like tuners and things like that. And then there's performers, where all they do is perform all day. And that's, a great thing. You get really good at playing piano like that. I like to kind of spread the love being a teacher, and I think it's a lot, it's really rewarding for me that way. But yeah, to sum up your question, no, I have not officially tuned a grand piano. Okay, Manny, if you email that to me, Tim at LessonsOnTheWeb.com, I can take a look at that for you. Not right now, though. I mean, like, in the next few days. So if you have it, or if you can get, like, a screenshot, or, you'd use that little snippet tool, that's, like, my favorite thing, and send it over, I'd be more than happy to look at it for you and give you some advice on that one. When I was younger... Oh, have I always wanted to become a teacher when I was younger? Since I was like 17, 18, I wanted to be a teacher. When I applied to music school, I went for music education, and then I switched from music education. I actually took a lot of the education classes, but I switched from that to music and business, which actually helped me create all the stuff you see today. Excuse me. So yeah, I wanted to be a teacher for a long time since I was younger. So at least the last 11 years. So you can guess how old I am from that. But that's how long I've wanted to learn to be a teacher. Now, beyond, like, before that, I probably did think about it, but that's when I really started to go after it. And then my passion for teaching has really bloomed ever since. In the last few years, I've become more passionate about it, and I like it even more, especially with this online thing. It's really cool. being able to teach lots of people around the world. Yeah, Rich, being a teacher is cool. I think a lot of the upsides is that you see your students progress over time, and then obviously you get better as a teacher. I've gotten a lot better as a teacher even since I started the YouTube channel. Although I was pretty good before that, but I feel like every year that goes by I get better. Mainly because you learn about different types of people, and you get along with different types of people, or don't get along. Most of the time you get along. But you learn how those people work. So you learn different learning styles, and it's really rewarding to have a student who struggles at something, and both you and them figure it out. They figure out how to learn it, and you figure out kind of how they work and how to teach it to them. Because not one style or one approach is going to work with every student, which can be frustrating. But like I said, it's just that much more rewarding when it finally clicks and you finally figure out, okay, this is how this student, I should explain this to the student, and this is the way they understand it best. So that's very rewarding. And like I said, students coming back, or students showing you what they can do years down the line. And I haven't even reached that point to a full extent yet, because you really have to be teaching piano for 20, 30, 40 years before you see students like go from being a kid to being a full-grown adult. But I do have some that were a kid who are like teenagers now, maybe late teens, and it's really cool to see how they've progressed and what they're able to do. Even there's people online. People send me stuff online sometimes about what they play, and I'm just amazed at what people are able to learn. Sometimes with a teacher, but sometimes without as well. So it's really great. When I ask teachers what do they love about teaching, and the majority of time teachers who love teaching find their job rewarding. Yeah, exactly. It's very rewarding, and it's for those reasons. Like I said, you see people grow in front of you, and I mean, you grow yourself as a teacher, but it's really neat to see students grow and progress. Like even you get, say you teach a student, and you just think about what they're able to do a year ago with you, and it's like, wow, they've really come along. So it's really rewarding. Another great thing about what I do is I don't have like a boss. That's cool. I guess you could say that the parents of my students, if they're younger students, or the students themselves are my boss. But for the most part, they don't treat me that way. They treat me with, a lot of respect. Although bosses should treat you with respect. But I certainly like what I'm doing because it's very... Now, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of things on my plate, but it's very freeform in terms of what I want to do next and when I want to do it. Now, obviously, I have to get the things done, or I just will not be as successful as a teacher. So it's really on me and my responsibility to get everything done. But I love just being on my own doing it, and not having somebody like Bill Lumberg, if you watched Office Space, tell me that my TPS reports are not filled out correctly. So that's another one of my favorite things about teaching, at least privately. I mean, obviously, if you teach in a school, you have to put up a lot of stuff, but you get a lot of students all at once, so there's a trade-off to that. All right, everybody. I think I'm going to call it a night. I think we've really discussed a lot of the things, unless anybody has any last-minute questions. So I'm just going to kind of close it out, wait a few minutes for maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll call it a night. Remember that if you're checking in here for the first time ever, or maybe you've been in a few times, Blueberry, I haven't heard from you in a couple of minutes since the beginning, but that's okay if you're just sitting back and watching. Great to have all of you again. John, great to have you again. Manny, Rich, and anybody else I may be forgetting about. Chesk is not here again, but he told me in a message that he will be back next week, and I think there's another person that will be back next week as well. Molly hopefully will be back around soon. If you're watching this, Molly, I did recognize that you weren't here today, unless you are here and you didn't say hello, but that's okay. Yeah, John. Yes, you. I'm glad you were able to make it to our lesson today. How much are my private lessons? My private lessons on Skype, because I don't have to travel anywhere, is $40 an hour, $20 a half hour. My rate, that's actually going to go up soon. I'm just going to say what it is going up. It's going to be $44 an hour. That's if I was drive to you. But of course, I think everybody here lives too far away for that. You have to live within like 20 minutes or so of me. That's 44 an hour, 22 a half hour. So that's how much I make, just on an hourly basis, not including any of the online stuff, teaching private lessons. Rich. Oh, Rich, good question, John. I totally missed that by Rich. Every once in a while, I miss a comment somebody else made. So thank you for that. Yeah, so crazy stories. I told a story a few weeks ago. One of my third student I ever got, which didn't last long. It lasted one lesson, and I'll tell you why really quick. So I worked at a public library in my town, and this kid came in, and he got the book Twilight, and I made fun of him for it because I was just kind of a jerk. I was in my, early 20s, so, I was maturing, but maybe not quite there yet, and I didn't really think of the repercussions that he might take it the wrong way. I had told this joke to other people before, and they thought it was fine, but it just goes to show you that, you got to be careful who you joke around with. But anyway, this kid got the book Twilight. It's like a vampire romance novel. And I said something like, oh, let me guess, that's for your sister or your girlfriend's making you read that. No, this kid really loved Twilight, and I think I hurt his feelings a bunch. Anyway, fast forward a few months, I get a call from this lady who's like, oh, do you want to teach my son? I almost said his name. I'm not going to. It wouldn't really matter if it's his first name. But can you come over and teach us? And I said, oh, yeah, I would love to. And I'm so excited to get my third student. And, I ring the doorbell, and who is it? It's that kid I made fun of. And it was just the worst lesson ever. I was super nervous. I was hoping he didn't recognize me. I know he did. And I know his parents did, too. They said something like if they recognized me from church or something, which I think is some kind of, I don't know, maybe they didn't think I was very Christian or something. But I don't know. That's what happened. And then, of course, I didn't get called back after that because they were like, what did they say? They were like, oh, we'll let you know when we want to have another lesson. We'll let you know. Because usually it's like, you do well in the first lesson. They're like, all right, we'll see you again next week. But they were like, oh, we'll call you. So I know that wasn't going to work out, and it didn't. So that was like probably the worst thing. Getting bitten by a dog was a bad thing. One time I was walking out the door, and these people just had like a vicious dog. Now, it's not vicious to them. That's how vicious dogs really are. Like, people always say, oh, my dog would never bite you. It's like, yeah, they would never bite the owner or anybody like that's real close to you. But me, like, I'm technically a stranger. So anyway, I'm walking out the door, and this dog like just jumps down the stairs at me and bites me in the shoulder. He luckily didn't bite me too bad, but I did have a jacket on, so that kind of helped. But he broke the skin just a little tiny bit, but it wasn't like an injury. So I kind of like let it go. And they were really good about the dog after that. They put it in the crate every time. That's happened a couple of times actually, but very minor. Like that was a big dog. The other time it was a smaller dog. So it wasn't really that big of a deal to me because it was like I could mess that dog up if I really wanted to. But so anyway, other than dogs, I've had the worst thing. By far the most unenjoyable part of my job is when I show up to a house and you can tell somebody in the house has been fighting. Like, you can just tell. You can feel the tension. You can read it off of everybody's face. So either the kid was fighting with their parents or the parents were fighting or something. That is the worst. Well, there's another thing that's the worst I'll get to in a minute. But that's the worst because it's so hard. First of all, it makes me feel nervous when everybody else is nervous around me. But it's so hard to get the student to break out of that, like, fear and that, like, whatever they're feeling, it's so hard to get them into the lesson. So that stinks. Another thing that's not cool is when the parents are divorced and one of the parents signs up their kid for music lessons and the other one doesn't want them to take them or doesn't care. That's the worst thing because, first of all, that affects the student a lot. Oh, turn on the metronome again. Stop. Yeah, there we go. It affects like the way they perceive the lessons because they're being told by one parent it's great and by another parent it's not great, and then the parents sometimes like get on my case about like payments and stuff. So no offense to anybody who is divorced, but some of the cases, not all of them, some of the cases with divorced parents I've had a lot of trouble with. I don't know what kind of dog. I don't really remember. It was a big dog, though. I wish I had more to give you. It wasn't like a lab or anything. I don't know if it was a Doberman. This was years ago. I don't really remember. It wasn't a Rottweiler or anything. And then Rich says, what is your best student? Do they have a YouTube page? No, they don't have a YouTube page yet. My best student, I have a lot of them that are really good right now. My first student, Peter, I won't tell you what his last name is. It doesn't really matter. He is really good, and he is like starting to do things on his own, like write songs on his own and go to open mic night some places. So I'll have to record some of these students and put them on the channel for you. And then I have a student from China who is a real go-getter if you're watching this. In a lot of ways, he's still growing, but he's doing really well. Like he's 15, I think almost 16. And he can play Mozart sonatas and stuff. I mean, fairly well. I mean, obviously once he gets to be my age, he'll be a lot better. But for his age, certainly he's really good. So those are just some of my favorites. I like a lot of them, though, to be honest. And I know that sounds cliche. Excuse me. Cliche, but that's the way I feel. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign it off for tonight. It's been an hour. So we talked about the scales. Feel free to watch the recording when this goes up, and then I'll split it up into smaller sections. And then we'll meet again on Sunday. I'm thinking about canceling next week, to be honest. One of the things, we will talk about this more next week. Oh, you're very welcome, John. Sorry, I was reading John's comment. I just saw it coming up. So we'll talk about on Sunday, rather. We're going to meet again on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll come up with some sort of lesson to do there. But one thing we're going to talk about is some of the things I have planned for the website coming up, which I talk about every once in a while. One thing is I'm hiring some people to develop courses for me. Now, why am I doing this? Can I develop the courses myself? Well, yes. Some of the courses I can. Some of the courses, though, if it's like really in-depth in an area like jazz or, I do know some jazz, but the people I'm going to be hiring know like a lot more about these certain topics or how to be, or ear training and things like that. I could make an ear training course. In fact, I made the first video to one, but I think I'm going to let this other young lady that I hired handle it. Because she really is more trained in it, first of all. And second of all, I don't have time to make all these courses. So I figure if I pay some people to make some courses, say over the summer, I can only make, probably over the summer with everything else I have to do, I can maybe make 2 courses. That's it. Because they do take at least a month to do, to like write, and then probably another month to make the content for. So if I have somebody developing courses for me, whether it's in a subject area I know or not, it will help me go from maybe making 2 courses this summer to maybe making like 5 or 6, maybe even 7. So I think the amount of courses on the website will grow quite a lot. So lots of cool things coming along. I'm also having people hiring other people to help me with other things. So things are really expanding, and I really have big plans for Lessons on the Web in the future. One of them is getting more people to show up to the live stream, but I haven't had time to figure that out with the advertising and stuff yet, since I've been meeting with a lot of people. I had taxes the other week and other things, but there's a lot of big things planned. One of the reasons I am tired at some of these live streams is just I've been working very hard, and some of that stuff you will see in fruition. Well, pretty much all of it for sure. But anyway, that's really my plan. And oh, let me see. Is there a forum on my website? No. I guess I could. The only problem with forums is you have to manage them. Like, I'd have to either myself be a moderator or like hire somebody to do it. Unless somebody here is willing to do it, then I can make you a moderator. And then what you'd have to do is check in every day, maybe twice a day, see if there's anybody posting pornography or any kind of like bad stuff, and get rid of it, or any bots, robots and stuff like the post or other things. So I'd have to make sure like everything on there is clean all the time. So I'd have to have a moderator to do that. So that's one of the reasons there isn't a forum at this time. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, John. Thank you, anybody else who is listening. The number says 5 right now. I know that can be off sometimes, but if you're just kind of sitting back in the background, thank you. I'll shake your hand through the virtual space. Thank you for attending, and we'll meet again on Sunday. I might take off next week just to kind of take a break. So check back at the schedule, lessonsontheweb.com/community. I don't even think you have to put in the .html unless you really want to, but that's where you can find the schedule. But like I said, it may change slightly, so check up on that. So everybody, thanks again, and you know who it is, Tim from where, Lessons on the Web, and I'll talk to you in the next lesson. I'll talk to you on Sunday, and then I'll talk to you, periodically throughout on the channel. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.